Have we got an operator back there? You want to operate? Beth Ann? I'm talking to you, sweet lady. Let's sing Onward, Christian Soldiers. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Christ the royal master leads against the foe, forward into battle, see his banner go. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. At the sign of triumph, Satan's host doth flee. On then, Christian soldiers, unto victory. Hell's foundations quiver at the shout of praise. Brothers, lift your voices, loud your anthems raise. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Onward then, ye people, join our happy throng. Blend with ours your voices in the triumph song. Glory, Lord, and honor unto Christ the King. This through countless ages, men and angels sing. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. King of my life, I crown thee now, thine shall the glory be. Lest I forget thy thorn-crowned brow, lead me to Calvary. Lest I forget Gethsemane, lest I forget thine agony, lest I forget thy love for me, lead me to Calvary. Show me the tomb where thou wast laid, tenderly mourned and wept. Angels in robes of light arrayed guarded thee while thou slept. Lest I forget Gethsemane, lest I forget thine agony, lest I forget thy love for me, lead me to Calvary. May I be willing, Lord, to bear daily my cross for thee, even thy cup of grief to share, Thou hast borne all for me. Lest I forget Gethsemane, lest I forget thine agony, lest I forget thy love for me, lead me to Calvary. Hi there. Good to see you guys. Hope you had a great day. Glad to see you back tonight. Hope you come ready to sing. Did you come to sing, Nancy? All right, let's sing together. How great are you, Lord? How great are you, Lord? How great is your mercy? How great are the things that you have done for me? How great are you, Lord? Your loving kindness is filling my heart as I sing. How great are you, Lord? How great is your love? It reaches to the heavens. How great is the heart that sought and rescued me? How great are you, Lord? How great is your mercy? How great are the things that you have done for me? How great are you, Lord? Your loving kindness is grilling my heart as I sing. How great are you, Lord? How great is your love? It reaches to the heavens. How great is the heart that sought and rescued me? How great are you, Lord? How great is your mercy? How great are the things that you have done for me? How great are you, Lord? Your loving kindness is filling my heart as I sing. How great are you, Lord? It's filling my heart as I sing. How great are you, Lord? Who can satisfy my soul like you? And who on earth could comfort me and love me like you do? Who could ever be more faithful, true? I will trust in you. I will trust in you, my God. Living water, rain down your life on me, cleansing me, refreshing me with life abundantly. River full of life, I'll go where you lead. I will trust in you. I will trust in you, my God. There is a fountain who is a king, victorious warrior and Lord of everything, my rock, my shelter, my very own, blessed Redeemer, who reigns upon the throne. Who can satisfy my soul like you? And who on earth could comfort me and love me like you do? Who could ever be more faithful, true? I will trust in you. I will trust in you, my God. There is a fountain who is a king, victorious warrior and Lord of everything, my rock, my shelter, my very own, blessed Redeemer, who reigns upon the throne. Who could ever be more faithful, true? I will trust in you. I will trust in you. I will trust in you, my God. There is a fountain who is a king, victorious warrior and Lord of everything, my rock, my shelter, my very own, blessed Redeemer, who reigns upon the throne, who reigns upon the throne. Thank you.
Deuteronomy 31. I tell you what, if you'll give me that picture of old Moses, there we go. I'll take care of it. Getting there. Let's recap. We are in the middle of our, well, we're not in the middle. We're at the end of our series on Moses. A couple years old at this point, and we're getting close to the finish line. I don't know how much longer I can keep him alive. And so we need to understand the nature of Deuteronomy to understand the nature of this passage. Deuteronomy is Moses' farewell writing. It's a combination of his compilation of the law as he understands it, and it is also details about his farewell address, as well as a very short remembrance of Israel's history. Okay? So we are in there. We're getting to the end. Last week, he made the wonderful, wonderful preaching proclamation about this way of life I'm describing to you is not too hard, and it is not so far away that you can't grasp it. That God is coming to you, being the only deity to ever come to the people and give them the way of life, rather than people having to seek out the way of life from the deity. So, very unique in his thing. But he said, this way I'm describing to you is close to you. It's as near as your mouth. It's as near as your heart. God has told you what it is. You don't have to go searching crazy places like across the sea or go up to heaven to get it. And he said, see, today I have laid before you a choice, life and death. I have placed them within your grasp. Now we must choose. And he begs them, choose life as you go in. And this is where he picks up today. If he said everything in his farewell address has been pretty practical so far, he's about to get personal. So let's read 31, 1 through 8. When Moses had finished speaking all these words to all Israel, he said to them, I am now 120 years old. I am no longer able to get about. And the Lord has told me, you shall not cross over this Jordan. The Lord your God himself will cross over before you. He will destroy these nations before you, and you shall dispossess them. Joshua also will cross over before you, as the Lord promised. The Lord will do to them as he did to Sihon and Og, the kings of the Amorites, and to their land when he destroyed them. The Lord will give them over to you, and you shall deal with them in full accord with the command that I have given you. Be strong and bold. Have no fear or dread of them, because it is the Lord your God who goes with you, and he will not fail you or forsake you. Then Moses summoned Joshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel, be strong and bold. For you are the one who will go with this people into the land that the Lord has sworn to their ancestors to give them, and you will put them in possession of it. It is the Lord who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed. All right, that's where we're going to stop for a minute. So let's check this out. You know what? I've decided I don't like doing this. Hey, you got it? Okay, good. Thank you. Because I have to look up there. But look up there. Look at that old guy. I like this painting. Somebody put a lot of work into this. But look at the lines, the wrinkles on his face. How did he get those wrinkles? 120 years. Yeah, I mean, all that he's been through, all that he's put up with, all of it. I mean, and so this is a painting of older, reflective Moses. This one is supposed to be him looking across into the promised land. But it gives a little humanity to this. And so he begins this address. What a nice way to begin an address. When Moses had finished speaking all these words, he said to them, I'm now 120 years old. That's a good way to start a speech. I want to hear the end of that speech. I know I say this too much, but when the guy in Plainview closed down the Spud Nut shop, my grandpa asked him why. And he said, Henry, I've been waking up at 4 every day since the war, and I'm tired. I just love the humanity of that. It's a great way to start the speech. I'm 120 years old. Just for details and perspective, he was 40 when he fled Egypt the first time. He was 80 at the time of the Exodus, and now he's been 40 3 times over. He says that he cannot get about. We should have different translations on that. Anybody have anything else on that? I cannot get about in verse 2. I'm no longer able to lead you. Yep, to come and go. It is literally kind of like that. He's implying very much that his leadership ability is waning. He's implying that the effects of age are dulling his ability to do his job. Now, it is literally, I am not able to go out and come in, but that's a euphemism. We've heard that before. If you get your ears tuned, it is a common phrase in the Mosaic world to say of leadership. In Numbers 27:17, he says, the people will need someone to go out before them and come back in. This is a leadership thing. That's his idea. So he's saying, I'm 120, my leadership is waning, but that's not even the big issue. What's the biggest issue of why this is the end of the road for me? God had already told him, okay? If the age, if everything else wasn't enough, the biggest issue is not his leadership shortcomings. It's not his age. It's the existing word from Yahweh that he's not going. He says, I'm not going with you, but the good news is somebody's going with you. Verse 3, he's going to set this up. I know you've already got Joshua in your head, but in verse 3, we're not talking about Joshua first. Who are we talking about first? That's right. The Lord your God, Yahweh your God himself, will cross over before you. It really is helpful almost to picture. We don't have any reason to believe that they're all standing at the riverside, but it really is helpful to kind of picture a river, and beyond that river is everything that you've been thinking about for the last 40 years. And so he says, the Lord your God is going to cross over there before you, as if he is going to go to the river, and then Yahweh is going to cross the river, and then he's going to prepare the land. Look at all the action words here. He will cross, he will destroy, and then you shall dispossess. Dispossess. It's not technically dispose, meaning you will make them not the possessor of the land anymore. They will no longer possess, you will possess. Yahweh is the commander-in-chief who will lead their army. That is the way this is set up. While when Moses goes away, Joshua is not becoming Moses. We talked about this not too long ago when we actually anointed Joshua, that Moses was priest and leader. He met with God in the tent of meeting, but Joshua will meet with the priests, and the priests will meet with God, and they will talk to God through Urim and Thummim, and it was a sense of loss. But in the same way, Joshua does not become the new Moses. In a funny way, Yahweh becomes the new Moses. He wants to be the king of Israel always, and he steps into this. We have Joshua as a civic leader. We have Eleazar as a spiritual leader. But we have King Yahweh, and that is the way this sets up. King Yahweh will go before us into the land, and Joshua will also go over before you. The great Hebrew understanding of leadership is that a leader goes before. The leader goes before. He gives a good wish for the people. And I'm getting this, be strong and bold, but I'm realizing that we know what that's supposed to say. What does it normally say? Strong and courageous. Okay, and they're both great. Those two words, strong and courageous, strong and bold, they occur 9 times in Deuteronomy and Joshua. All of the verses focus on a transition of leadership to have strength and take courage. The pair occurs together 8 more times in the rest of the Old Testament, 4 of them just to refer to Davidic monarchy. It is a formula for a well-wish for the future, that these are the things you need. You need to be strong, and you need to have courage, right? I really feel a lot lately. It's been a word that hasn't been very far from my brain at some point every week for the past year and a half is courage. I really think that's where the people of God can live in uncertain times, is courage. What do we have to be afraid of? We can be wise about so many things, about the way we deal with people, about the way we deal with viruses. Wisdom is great. But about the conversations we have, about the world changing, but ultimately we need to have courage to be able to set aside our fear, to be able to show up into these conversations and show up into these situations with full alert eyes, ready to look and take in, because we know that we don't have to fear the outcome, and because we know that Yahweh goes with us. We can be strong. We can have courage in the face of change because it is Yahweh, our God, who goes with us. There's no sense in being afraid, and courageous conversations just make us better. It's good. So he says, be strong, be bold, and then we're going to dispel a couple negative things, but they really kind of wrap up into one. What negative thing do we need to get rid of? Fear or dread of them being the inhabitants of the land, right? Last time, 40 years ago, we made it to the promised land, and 12 spies went in, and when they came out, what kind of things did they say? There's giants in there, and it's bad, and we'll never beat them. There were grapes as big as our head, but there was also giants, so we better go home. That's what they said. Today, we do not need to have fear or dread of them because Yahweh our God goes with us, and He doesn't fail, and He doesn't run away from His people. He doesn't fail, and He doesn't bail. I just made that up. I'm going to write that down. That's right. Then after he encourages the people, he says, bring me Joshua. So in verse 7, then Moses summoned Joshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel. And then this is cool. The words that he speaks to Joshua, they're very similar, right, to the words he speaks to the nation as a whole, right? What kind of things do we see that we already know? Strong and courageous, strong and bold. Yahweh is the one that will go. Go ahead and click over. Keep going, I guess. Yeah, that's just 37b. Here it is. It is the Lord who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not fail nor bail. Do not fear or be dismayed. He gives Joshua the same blessing he gives the nation. This is also really indicative of the Hebrew understanding of leadership. As goes with the people, goes with the leader. And so he gives Joshua the same blessing, the same encouragement he gives the whole nation. Be strong, be courageous, don't dread the people that live in the land. And all the reason you can do this is because you know that Yahweh goes before you and takes every step with you. Cool, cool, cool. He blesses Joshua in almost the same way. And at this point, he has introduced the goodbye part of it. Anybody ever heard a terrible goodbye speech? I mean, I'm not saying the speech was terrible, but it was terrible to listen to. The one where you just didn't want them to go, right? The one where the person was sick and you didn't want to hear that they weren't going to do well anymore. Not everybody gets the chance to do that. Moses begins this, and you can kind of see the people start to shuffle in their feet. It's a pretty holy, sacred moment. He makes this transition, and he's going to give just a couple more instructions about this. Now, when we're going to start reading in verse 9 in a minute, it's going to seem like a different story, and it kind of is. But this is all part of what it takes. When someone's ready to leave earth, they have to tell their kids they love them. They have to bless their grandchildren, but they also have to tell them where the will is and what to do with the dog after they're gone, right? So he's working through all these details. And let's read verse 9. Then Moses wrote down this law and gave it to the priests, the sons of Levi, who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and to all the elders of Israel. Moses commanded them, every 7th year, in the scheduled year of remission, during the festival of booths, when all Israel comes to appear before the Lord your God at the place that he will choose, you shall read this law before all Israel in their hearing. Assemble the people, men, women, and children, as well as the aliens residing in your towns, so that they may hear and learn to fear the Lord your God, to observe diligently all the words of this law, and so that their children who have not known it may hear and learn to fear the Lord your God, as long as you live in the land that you are crossing over the Jordan to possess. All right, that's what we're going to look at. So Moses is finished. He tells them, I'm tired, and I'm not going. He finishes writing down, this is so curious in the Hebrew, this law. It is really weird to think. Does the writer of Deuteronomy expect us to hear that Moses wrote that about himself in the third person, or what it is? But it's referring to the law contained within this book. Moses finished writing this book. It might mean all of Deuteronomy. It might mean the whole Torah. It might even be the middle section of Deuteronomy, chapters 5 through 26, where there's like a really kind of formal, set-apart account of the law. But when he finished writing it all down, what did he do with it? He gave it to the priest. He has a copy. This is the copy. This is the copy of the law, which I have worked on so hard. And he gave it to the priests, the sons of Levi, who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord, and to all the elders of Israel. It was their reference copy. It elaborates a little more about this if you look down in verse 24, 26. Not much, but it does tell us that the instruction was to place this book not in the Ark of the Covenant, but beside the Ark of the Covenant, meaning that people could go get the book and reference it when they needed to. There was no sacred don't touch the Ark thing. Well, plus, there is law in the Ark. What's in the Ark? Well, you're right. But the Ten Commandments are in the Ark. This is the reference manual that is outside the Ark, that is given to the priests and given to the elders of the tribe to be able to look at. Moses wrote the book, and they can look at it. You know, obviously it's a scroll, maybe multiple scrolls. We're not quite sure. So he gives it to them. This implies that the priests have official custody of the law. That is the covenant text. This is in keeping with other ancient Near Eastern practices. It was the practice of ancient Near Eastern cultures where such arrangements were attested for the priests to keep a record of the covenant between two parties. So it's not surprising that both the Lord and Israel would follow suit by making the priests the keeper of the covenant record. But then he says something kind of funny. Not ha-ha funny, but he says, I want you to keep this law, keep it with the priests, and we're going to do something with it. What are we going to do with it?
Read it out loud
Every 7 years, we're going to read it out loud. Does that sound like a good afternoon? Let's pack a picnic and let's read the law out loud. But this is important. This is very important. This is a pre-literate culture. Think about it. Think about it. If there was no literacy in our church at all, and I'm not saying that we were the most disadvantaged church in town. I'm just talking our whole culture. If there was no literacy, what would we do to keep the Word of God fresh in people's minds? We'd read it out loud. What'd you say? Keep reminding of it, Crystal?
I'm asking me to do it.
Right. No, people read. There's somebody. Yeah. Right. It's an elite thing. And he says this, every 7th year in the scheduled year of remission. You might see that in your Bible as the year of Jubilee. Anybody know what the year of Jubilee is? Anybody want to give us an appendix about the year of Jubilee? Yep, forgiving all debts. Every 7 years, forgive all debts and return all land that might have been exchanged back to the original tribal owners. Okay? So every 7 years, they were supposed to just ring the bell, everything reset. If you owed money, you got it wiped out. If you were in debtor's prison, you got it wiped out. If you were an indentured servant to someone else because you owed them money, you were free again. If you got destitute and you had to sell to your friend a field, it was now your family's field again. Does that make sense? So he says every 7 years, this was commanded that they're going to do. Now, there's no evidence that they did that, not even once. People are way too selfish for such a thing.
But you know they're celebrating it this coming year.
Are they really? How fun.
This year is the year of Jubilee again in Israel.
Cool. You think I could get some debts waived? Huh? No? No, thank you for telling me that. I want to look into that.
I know that except I follow a page on Facebook that does Israel stuff. And that's what coming year is that 2022.
Well, good for them. So we call it the year of release. If you're curious about it, it's described in Deuteronomy 15 in Moses' little thing, and that's what's going on. But in the year of Jubilee, at the Festival of Booths, sometimes this is called the Festival of Tabernacles. Anyone want to describe to us the Festival of Tabernacles? A tabernacle or a booth is a tent, if that's a hint to you. Well, every year, they were supposed to have the Festival of Booths, in which families, particularly all males in leadership, had to go live in a tent for 7 days in order to remember the Exodus. That's what it was. God wanted them every year, you need to get yourself out and live in your tent so that you remember what it was like for your ancestors so that you don't forget, okay? One of my favorite things, this is what I learned this week. Can you hit that? Okay, where all Israel, he's talking about the Festival of Booths, comes to appear before the Lord your God at the place he will choose. I kept reading over that going, what is that? And it turns out, this is what I learned this week. God chose, and this is outlined in Deuteronomy 12, 5, and 11, that God picked a new place for the Festival of Booths every year. So that he would be glorified in a new place. He had the option of saying, okay, this year we are Festival of Boothing in Bethlehem, and next year we are Festival of Boothing in Ephraim. Okay? I don't know if you think that's neat or not. Boothing. I'm just making up an English word. This year we're going to hold the Festival of Booths at this place, and the priests were supposed to discern from Yahweh where the Festival of Booths would be next year. So that's pretty cool. But every 7 years, wherever the Festival of Booths is, everybody needs to go, okay? So normally the Festival of Booths was open to everyone, but it was only required for all males. Every 7 years, who's supposed to go? Verse 12. Men, women, children, immigrants, everybody. If they're living in Israel, they gotta go to the Festival of Booths every 7 years. They gotta live in the tent. They gotta remember the Exodus. They gotta eat the unleavened bread. They gotta get their feet in the soil and remember what God brought them to. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna read the whole law. The purpose of this assembly was to provide a forum for a regular and formal renewal of the covenant before the Lord. This was a vow renewal ceremony. I did a vow renewal, the only one I've ever done. At the end of it, the guy said, well, we should have got paperwork. We're just common law. But they'd been common law for 40 years. And I thought, I guess you should have. I don't know what to tell you. But it's all done now. So it's this vow renewal of the nation and of God in the same place, in the tents, just like they're staying out in the wilderness. We're going to read the whole law at the place that God chooses, and everyone is going. Exactly. He wants us to know that. And he's going to mention children twice in this section. So, honestly, we could read the whole law. Shepherd 7 this year, we could read the whole law to him. And by the time he's 14, he'll have no recollection of what we do here this afternoon, right? We might not either. Reference to women and children may suggest that entire families were expected to attend this feast during the sabbatical year. After all, women shared the responsibility for raising the children, and the children represented the next generation responsible for continuing this covenantal relationship. And he says, I'm going to do all this. Everybody, bring the whole community, even the non-Israelites that are just living with you, so that they may the whole nation, learn again to fear the Lord and to observe his commandments and to observe diligently all the words of this law. To learn how to respect Yahweh. We only know of 2 places in the Bible that this was done. Anybody know them? Want to take some guesses? I'm in a guessing mood tonight. The first was with King Josiah. Okay? King Josiah, the account being in 2 Kings 23. The nation had fallen into such spiritual disrepair that one of the prophets finds the book of Deuteronomy, doesn't quite know what it is, brings it to King Josiah and says, hey, we found this during temple renovations. They were putting in a new bathroom, and they found the book of Deuteronomy, and they handed it to King Josiah, and he goes, well, I wonder what this is. Isn't that sad that the king of the nation of Israel didn't know what this was? And he looks at it and he reads it and he tears his clothes and he begins to weep and he remembers. And he says, what we need to do as a nation? We need to get together and we need to do this. We need to hear the word of God. So Josiah reads it to him. It causes a revival in Josiah's lifetime that unfortunately does not pass on to his predecessor. The only other time it happens, anybody figured it out? Ezra and Nehemiah. That's right. It's in the book of Nehemiah 8:13. When they come back and they build the wall again, they stand there and they follow through with this and they read the whole law to the people, and it causes an emotional outburst and a rending of people's hearts to return to the Lord their God that has now at that point brought them home from exile. And it's kind of part of the celebration. So the question is, what does this mean for our teaching? What does this mean for our pedagogy? What kind of things should we do? Do we do? How often should we cover every part of the Bible? What parts of the Bible for New Testament Christians are the kind of thing that we need to be reading and talking about on a regular scheduled basis? What would you think? Sunday school. Sure, that's where we do it. There's one plan. It's a little problematic, but from the Southern Baptists, the Lifeway people, they don't just make Sunday school these days. They make multiple kinds of Sunday school, and one of them goes through the whole Bible on a loop, and so you kind of just go through it like that. The reason it's problematic is it kind of has a funny reputation of being very Calvinist, if that makes sense, if you know what that means. So a lot of people avoid it just for that reason. But we do it in Sunday school. But what kind of text do you think we have to, as Christians, revisit on a regular basis? What do we need reminding of?
We should be reading our Bible.
Sure. So you think the Ten Commandments? Very good. The crucifixion and the resurrection.
Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to me except no one comes to the Father except through me.
Okay, very good. Very good passage.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Jesus wouldn't have had to die if they'd known all these things.
Hypothetically, yeah. If men were able to follow the law, then we would not have the need for the Messiah.
Well, like in 25, it says, he gave this commandment to the Levites who carried it to the ark of God, and he did it because of the way they had acted while they were with him, and he said, when I die, what's it going to be like?
Oh, yeah, it gets really weird in a minute. We can't do all of it, but yeah, in a minute he pretty much says the same thing, saying, you need to do this. I mean, you won't, but you need to. I mean, I think about, Crystal, what did you say? What was yours? Paul's letters. And you realize this is actually where our New Testament formed, is this discussion right here. People started to say, especially at the Council of Nicaea, way back in the early parts of Christianity, people started to say, what texts do you guys use all the time? What texts are in common usage in the church? And through prayer, they decided upon the ones that became our New Testament. And so it was kind of like, well, my church, we read James a lot, or my church, we read the Gospel of Luke every year. And in some cases at that point, they might say, well, we have a copy of the Gospel of John, and we have a copy of the letter to the Romans. What do you guys got? And so it was through that effort of what are the things as we as Christians need to be going over in our hearts and making sure are sowed into our lives so that it can be like what Moses promised last week, that the word can be as near as our heart and as near as our mouth. And that's ultimately how the New Testament forms, is a sense of agreement among Christians from multiple continents over which letters really spoke to them and that they felt that their church needed to be going over on a consistent basis. I often think that I need to read the Beatitudes and the larger Sermon on the Mount every year. That's kind of my thing. Because it's so radical. Every time I read it, it pushes me in a new way that I didn't think I could be pushed. So there is something great and powerful to the community that recites consistently God's word. Beth Ann said the resurrection. Every year, it's a weird thing to be a preacher, because every Christmas and every Easter you start to think, how did I talk about this last year? And how can I talk about it differently this year? I think this will be year 11 or something for me being the preacher. And I go back and I go, well, what did I do that year? What did I do my third year? What did I do my fourth year? What all ways are there to talk about the resurrection that's new? You don't have to make it new. You just need to tell the truth so the people hear it over and over and over again. If every Christmas we had the same 5 studies, and if every Easter we had the same 5 discussions, it would still be the beautiful and life-changing Word of God. And we might learn it better if goofballs like me would quit changing it to make it more interesting. So we'll see this year, huh? So the final thing that Dick pointed out, we're going to jump to, he says, verse 13, that's what I'm getting at. And so that their children who have not known it may hear and learn to fear the Lord your God, as long as you live in the land that you're crossing over the Jordan to possess. There's some things that are hard to pass down generationally. It may be because your generation or my generation takes it so easily for granted that we don't quite express it as clearly to our children. There are things that we can take for granted, that I have known this my whole life. It is worth it to get down on our knees and look little people in the face and tell them these truths like they brand new golden nuggets right out of God's truth factory, because to them they are. And it can be a hard thing. I think that this is a really odd thing for a preacher to talk about sometimes, but tithing and consistency in Sunday school probably fits in that for us. The older generations were impressed upon by their predecessors that tithing. We've had a lot of discussions too about helping out around the church. One of Lorna's oldest church memories is cleaning the blinds, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, cleaning the blinds at their church, right? That was a part of their church life. These are things that we grew up with. But maybe we didn't do what we needed to all the time to pass it down to the next generation. And so we find that, hey, no one goes to Sunday school anymore, And it may be that we can work on Sunday school and improve it, but it may just be that something we took for granted. And getting down on the eye level with the beautiful little young people and sharing with them this wonderful stuff like it's a brand new thing, and the passion of our heart is always worth it. God recognizes when you're in the land, you're going to have a lot of little people, and we're going to need to show them the way to life. All right, any comments, questions, rebuttals? Okay.
After I thought about that, I thought the last article that I read talked about that it being a rest for the
It does.
Actually begins September 7th this year.
All right.
September 7th.
That's so cool. I forgot that there was a rest for the land component. We Yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that little thing. One of the prophets says that. Yeah, man. It's fascinating. All right, so starting September 7th, no gardening. Just got to cut it out. Let the land rest. Let it all go back. All right, well, Barry, will you sing us out of here?
Joy comes from the Lord. He has made me glad. I will enter his gates with thanksgiving in my heart. I will enter his courts with praise. I will say this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. He has made me glad, he has made me glad. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. He has made me glad, he has made me glad. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. I will enter his gates with thanksgiving in my heart. I will enter his courts with praise. I will say this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. He has made me glad, he has made me glad. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. He has made me glad, he has made me glad. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. Good night, everybody.